I'll start introducing the panel while you guys get seated. You've already met Paul Su. He's going to be our moderator here today. So I'm not going to introduce him again. Dean Marks is the managing director and does a lot of strategic leadership at Sterling Bay. And they are working on the question of how does the metaverse meet IRL? How does it meet in real life? Luis Ramirez is at Mawari. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Mawari.
Mawari, okay, thank you. And they are building the platform and the math, I will say, according to Luis. They're building the math that will allow us to render the metaverse. And Zunir is from Drive Capital, and she wears a bunch of hats there. Boss from Drive Capital. And she does crypto, she does healthcare, but I think she really brings a strong presence to the whole panel. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Hope lunch was great. It's great seeing all, especially the Metaverse demos up here front. You know, even as a ex-gaming executive in Web2, you know, at Decasonic, we spent a lot more time on the metaverse. It is the unifying layer of this next generation internet, immersive internet with meaningful interactions. We see what happened with hybrid work, Zoom, and IRL set a catalyst, at least in our investment thesis at Decasonic, to invest in the metaverse. And you know, great to have this great panel today. I'll kick off a little bit with you know, how big the metaverse is, and you know, a lot of this big and small company activity in the metaverse. I think you hear a lot about it. It was just on the cover of Time magazine. There are books written about it now. You know, I'm a big believer that this over time evolves to a $13 trillion opportunity. We're at just the very beginnings of this. A lot of Wall Street firms believe the whole stack of that internet, and it encompasses a lot of the physical real estate, will be metaverse ready. On the big company side, obviously, Facebook renamed itself to Meta. McKinsey estimates $120 billion worth of big company investment last year going into the metaverse. SEC mentions of the word metaverse was roughly 220 last year. We're on a rate of 10x that in company filing. So what the big companies are doing is they're deploying a lot of R&D dollars into this. On the small company side, the rebels fighting, you know, the empire and the Star Wars of the metaverse, we're seeing about $10 to $20 billion worth of venture investments head into small companies. A lot of VCs like ourselves who are Web3 gaming native do see the potential in the metaverse. And so it's great to have this panel. It's so timely to think about it this way. And we have three respective domain experts that I think are going to collaborate going forward to enable the metaverse. So from your domain expertise perspectives, I love to kick off this panel with, you know, how do you believe the metaverse impacts the real lives of real people? And Dean, I'll start with you. You know, yeah, sure. I'm inspired by Lincoln Yards and what you guys are building up there. It's weird to start off a metaverse panel with the realverse person.
Happy to. Let's just be clear about that. Not a metaverse expert, okay? Real estate, hopefully expert. What I do want to say is what makes me very happy is in a room full of super smart people who are hyper-focused on virtual interactions in virtual spaces, that to see everybody gathered physically in a physical space that we've created gives me hope that our industry is not yet obsolete, okay? So, how is the metaverse going to impact real estate and real estate investing? I've heard it over and over again today that it is very early in the game, and we're just learning how they will interact. But from a marketing standpoint, from a selling standpoint, how we show spaces that are going to be developed, the metaverse is going to change that undoubtedly. And we saw it with the programming that we gave some people at Lincoln Yards and how we're pitching these developments that are coming out of the ground. Visualizing them now is easier than it ever has been in the past, and that's only going to get more interesting as we go.
Zunera, Luis, what are the use cases that are getting you excited from your respective views of the metaverse?
I'm happy to start. So we were actually just talking about this before the panel, but we were talking about this debate of like in real life versus hybrid work versus fully remote or distributed. I've actually worked in environments that embrace one of each of those three. And you know, when we talk about hybrid today, it's oftentimes like, oh, you go into the office 1 day a week or 2 days a week, and then you work from home the other days, your call heavy days. But when you pick up the metaverse as a concept and you apply it to hybrid work, I think it could look like maybe you don't actually change the physical space, but you are able to still replicate that in-office feel, even working from home in a very unique way. And I think like that sort of future where we can still reap the benefits of being able to walk over to someone's desk and just asking them a question right away, while still kind of have the comfort of, or the flexibility to work from where we need to due to like, you know, family reasons or preferences. I think that could be really cool. I'm feeling it personally because half my life is in Chicago, half my life is in Columbus. Drive is based out of Columbus. My husband lives in Chicago. So I mean, I could see that as a use case I actually really embrace.
And Luis?
Great. Yeah, beyond the hype and thinking about gaming or virtual worlds, Maware's mission is to empower the real world metaverse. We see this as there will be an ever-persistent digital twin of the physical world, and it will interact seamlessly between one and the other. So what you're saying, okay, you could be in Chicago, well, you are actually really in Columbus. In terms of the use cases, it's still early, but we see some enterprise use cases. One of them that excites me the most, and because sometimes people say, okay, how did the metaverse can provide value? Like right now we're working in Canada with one university and an operator in which they want real-time rendering of MRIs to do diagnosis with smart glasses. That right away, you can understand the intrinsic value that it's adding. It's not the gaming application, for example. The other one is, as I see a metaverse, is going to change the way we communicate, we work, and how we interact with people. So I'm kind of like a hobby electronic musician. So yeah, the entertainment use case is also very dear to me. So for example, right now in the MTV Music Awards, now there's a metaverse category, and it's not really just gaming. It's okay, so how they got the artists into a virtual world, or they were other way around, creating an avatar of the artist and just making a virtual video. So there are a lot of things that today actually are generating real value, and in the future it's just going to be the new internet, how we interact, and probably like the Minority Report, we will have contact lenses that everything will be hyper-connected.
No, this is great. You know, Zunera covers the future of work for the metaverse. Luis is covering some of the consumer apps, the gaming, entertainment, and music. You know, Dean, back in your court, you know, your firm's responsible for a lot of what you see around here in Fulton Market. You know, and I believe what gets the gamer generation to come into work is you make work fun, or you blend work and play. So can you chat more about how you think about?
So hypercritical part of it for us is we saw this over and over in Fulton Market while we were building headquarters for technology companies like Google, like Dyson, like Twitter, TikTok, Groupon, SAP. We may not have to come into the office all the time, every day, going forward. Okay, and as the metaverse evolves, our remote interactions will get more efficient. You know, we found during the pandemic we were not a great remote company because we couldn't do these instant interactions all the time. That may change. However, when you are coming into the office, you want to be coming into a beautiful, beautiful physical space. And so companies in emerging industries are always competing for resources, limited resources, funding and talent. We can't help you with funding, that's Paul. Okay. We can help you with talent in that when you are developing these spaces for people to come in and you spend 8, 10, 12, maybe longer hours there a day, having that space be distinctive and special to you becomes a competitive advantage in the competition for talent. And we've seen it across industries and across markets everywhere. And every company is kind of getting there now. It started with just amenities. 15 years ago, we were putting balconies and roof decks on buildings. People thought that was crazy. Now it's run of the mill. We've put bowling alleys, swimming pools, pickleball courts, golf simulators into buildings. But now we're listening to the people in this room telling us, what do you need to distinguish yourself from your competitors? Maybe you want green rooms instead of conference rooms. Maybe you want motion capture instead of regular audio visual. Maybe you want something really cool that I've never even heard of before. And to get a handle on that and to give you what you need to compete on the talent field, that's what we want to establish with your companies here in Fulton Market and in Lincoln Yards.
Luis, you work a lot with VR, AR, extended reality infrastructure, and there are computing requirements, network requirements to enable a lot of this hybrid immersive experience. What are you seeing in your conversations with carriers and other enterprises for these physical space requirements?
Well, for physical spaces, it's all about, even starting from, like Dean said, from the smallest details. I'll give you an example. Right now, I was giving a demo with the smart glasses. This carpet cannot be detected by the computer vision algorithm seamlessly. So yeah,
we'll change the carpet.
We need to change the carpet. So basic things like that. But on the infrastructure side, like, okay, 5G is a short range wave, so we need 5G antennas across the buildings, and then, yeah, like edge rendering servers, we can have these ever persistent experiences while we are inside a location. We've done this in Japan with KDDI, in which we have set up 5G stations at the museums. Then you get the smart glasses and just walk through the full museum, but it's a fully augmented experience.
Zunera is a crypto native, having worked in the last bear market cycle at Consensus. As you think about the applications that crypto natives would love to see in the metaverse or physical spaces, what are some perspectives that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so I'm a funny, having been a crypto native, having been in like the space for a while, I can like, carry on a conversation with most everyone who's working in the space and like really enjoy it. But at the same time, I'm very much, in some ways, like set on kind of how I do things in my day-to-day. And so I sort of, like everyone else, went through this phase where I stopped going into a store to shop and, opted for ease of use situation. So like Amazon, or, like buying a bunch of dresses from Zara because I need to go on a vacation, and trying them on later. That still like doesn't satisfy me completely, that experience, right? Oftentimes you're a little disappointed, something doesn't fit. I think people are very ready for this like buying experience in the metaverse, especially the crypto native community, because they've already done it with NFTs. Candidly, I also think they're a little bit more willing to imagine with us about this future that's very near, and that means you can talk to a crypto native about potentially like a medical device solution that's based in the metaverse that helps you undergo surgery and do it with a surgeon like that's remote, right? And they'd probably be more willing to opt into being that patient than otherwise. So I think the early adopter nature is definitely there for the crypto native, and I think it'll still have to do with practical day-to-day life solutions. So,
Zunera, you're very focused on enterprise and a lot of durable use cases. I'll put it back to Luis of, hey, maybe you could share some of the requirements for the entertainment aspects, music or gaming or content.
Well, for gaming, for example, and what is kind of like the holy grail is the interoperability of 3D data. because you want to get your avatar into different worlds. You don't want to buy many of them, or the NFT creators don't want to create 100 different versions of the same asset just for fitting into each platform. So that's one problem that we at Mawari are actually solving. But in terms of entertainment, like, there is depending on, for example, if it's location-based and the venue, yeah, it's a lot of collaborating with real estate planners into the design. It's like, for example, in the virtual world, in virtual reality, you need to really understand human behavior to design the application. But this is a real world metaverse, so you also need to understand how the computer actually interacts with the real space, so that you can design, for example, if I tell you, okay, I just need a kind of like a polka dot type of carpet, probably looks horrible. So then there needs to be that collaboration of having like a good design, but also that it works for the current state of technology.
And Dean, following up on that, Luis, from the digital entertainment perspective, is saying, hey, we need this collaboration. Yeah. Is that available in retrofitting the loop or existing infrastructure, or does this have to be ground up new infrastructure?
Doesn't have to be ground up for the most part, especially with something as simple as carpet. We're going to talk about that after. And getting that blend of high design that is functional, it can look nice, and if it doesn't work for the purpose, it's pointless. And so if our goal is to enable these physical spaces to be digitally twinned, and that allows you to overlay your product over a physical space, and then that allows us to show people this space all the way across the world. That's a win across the board. We can accommodate that, and we absolutely can find ways to work with that. And it doesn't need to be brand new ground up construction. It can be done in a thoughtful manner anytime you rehab a space.
And bringing this back to the room of investors and innovators, Zunera, what are you seeing in deal flow trends for metaverse deals? What's getting you excited? What's getting funded?
I've seen a good amount of like ed tech opportunities come up too, and one in particular is this kind of feeds into my background and my interests in the spaces weirdly through med tech. I went to the border of Syria when I was in college, and I saw the way people needed digital solutions because physicians couldn't physically go into the field that they needed to work in due to danger. And so recently I just saw a pitch which excited me about an approach to medical education that uses a very heavy virtual reality component without having to get real life cadavers when you can't, or trying to figure out surgeries,
right? Augmented surgeries.
So that type of stuff, candidly, like because it fits into my own interests, is exciting to me, and because I see a future where it's already happening. Like surgeons who use these types of tools today will say, "Hey, think about this tool that allows me to do robotic surgery as more of a GPS type of solution, something that helps me see clearly where I need to go and precisely, so I make less mistakes during the actual procedure." And so those types of offerings and those types of companies, quite frankly, are what excite me the most, because I can already feel it at like we're supposed to predict the current future, right, before everyone else sees it, but we already are experiencing it or seeing it as an investor, and so that to me is really tangible.
Love it. One last question before Q&A. If there's one idea you could leave the audience about the metaverse, what's that one idea, Luis?
Well, as it was already said just now, it is already here. I think, healthcare and like more industrial type of use cases is the shortest or like the lowest hanging fruit for adoption, because they're already providing value and they exist. So for example, we're also working with a med tech company, but because it's not cadavers, but they do need organs in real high quality, not just like a game asset, so they can really learn about it. So it is here. There's a lot of work to do, but it's going to change the way we work and we operate. For example, like let's say Twitch. Like when Twitch started, people would say, okay, why would people like to watch someone playing a game, right? But everybody has its own preference, right? But Twitch changed into, okay, now esports exists. So the metaverse will do the same. There are many things that we never thought, okay, this is actually cool or it will happen. But it will change our mind. And for example, in Japan, what's driving the metaverse? Aging population. So we need virtual assistants because there's not enough people that want to do the blue-collar jobs per se in Japan. So that's, and then the companies are struggling with immigration, with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. So what was the solution? Okay, let's create an AI assistant. So.
Dean, what's your one idea?
I don't think I should be sharing metaverse ideas with this audience. I think it has to go the other way. In reality, what I would say is that, at least in commercial real estate, we are an industry that is slow to change and then is fast to copycat. And if I was on the other side of this room, I would be thinking about all the ways your applications can augment and uplift our industry, because I think we are ripe for this type of assistance and disruption. Luis was showing me the digital twinning that he has developed, and all I can think about is how I don't have to walk through blocky AR models, and I can do this with real images of cities and show people what the neighborhood looks like, even if they're not in the city. So
correct.
The real world applications are endless.
Amazing. Is there?
I'm not going to take up too much time because I know we're out of time, but you stole the words right out of my mouth. It's great. I think if you see something that feels like it fully needs a metaverse solution, and that could augment the way a certain practice is done, or open up the ability for, let's say, more people to learn about a certain field, for example, I think that's the type of stuff we should be building. And I'm really happy to partner with any founder who wants to build something like that. Please come talk to me.
We're out of time. Please grab any one of us if you have any questions. Okay, great.
Thanks, Brian.
Almost off the hook, huh?
Thanks, Brian.
You're on the hook. Get ready.
Say,
the tough question.
Listen, I was just happy I got to wear a logo T-shirt on a panel. That's a first and probably a last. So.
I have a question for Dean. Even my background is in architecture and real estate. Yeah. So there are few low-hanging fruits of, let's say, participatory design in Metaverse, as well as NFT or DAO for tenants in the real estate. What are some things of Web3 integration which make real estate developers like you excited?
Not sure I can answer that question, and that we're far enough along in my understanding of it. But again, for us, you guys are so far ahead on the digitization of the economy and the sharing of this information in ways that, frankly, I'm just starting to understand. When I look at virtual real estate, I try to apply traditional metrics to it. Okay, location, design, what is around it, and my concern is I'm not sure how relevant those metrics are when I get into metaverse real estate. So I don't think I'm answering your question, okay? But what gets me excited are the endless applications that are available to our end users, tenants in spaces, people who are interested in seeing what can be done and developed, architecture, to re-render a building at a snap of a finger and change the skin, change the fenestration, change what it looks like. That to me saves us weeks, if not months, of work on the back end to have the application be able to do those things in real time. So, not sure I answered the question, but that's as good as I think I can do. So, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.